Very good. Well, let's get busy here so we can cover everything. And let me show you a little video here. This documentary called Game Changers. It talks about the strongest and fastest people on planet Earth. So let me show you this little clip here about it.
One and only Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I ate a lot of meat. They showed us commercials.
Steak. That's what a man eats.
Selling that idea that real men eat meat.
Serious man food.
But you got to understand, that's marketing. That's not based on reality.
He's vegan, Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I've been teaching fighting techniques to government agencies for more than 15 years. Then I got injured. Unable to teach for at least 6 months. I spent more than 1,000 hours studying science on recovery and nutrition, and stumbled across a study about the Roman gladiators.
The gladiators were predominantly vegetarian.
How could the original professional fighters be so powerful, eating only plants?
When I made the switch to a plant-based diet, I qualified for my 3rd Olympic team. I broke 2 American records. I was like, man, I should have done this a long while ago.
When I went plant-based, I wasn't sure if I was going to survive. And I actually became like a machine.
One of the biggest misconceptions in sports nutrition is that we have to have animal protein to perform at a high level. That's just not true.
Sometimes you have to do things that you know your competitors aren't doing.
Today's blood and yesterday's blood.
Yeah. I think this is going to wake a lot of people up.
I was recovering better, not getting as sore. This was our best season in the last 15 years, and we had 14 guys on plant-based diets.
We all want to feel great, have more energy.
Cholesterol was 276. Today, 169.
Whoa, now you're talking.
Most guys my age can keep up with the grandchildren. My grandchildren can't keep up with me.
It's not one set of dietary guidelines for improving your performance as an athlete, another one for reversing heart disease, reversing diabetes. It's the same for all of them.
Someone asked me, how could you get as strong as an ox without eating any meat? And my answer was, have you ever seen an ox eating meat?
You find that on things like Netflix and so forth. You can watch it there. So let's talk about vascular health for brain health. As we are seeing, the results here in Australia are not looking very good. Cases of dementia keep on increasing, but they shouldn't be like that. We can make changes so that we can beat the curve. In America, 6.7 cases of dementia, a new diagnosis every 64 seconds of dementia in America. Dementia is an umbrella term. There's multiple different types of dementia. Happens to be that Alzheimer's disease is the most common dementia here in America and in the Western world. So statistics say that 1 in 9 people age 65 and above are having dementia. Those are pretty big numbers, 1 in 9. By 2050, the number of people ages 65 and above with Alzheimer's dementia is projected to reach 12.7 million. The total national direct cost of caring for people with Alzheimer's and other dementias will reach $345 billion, as well as the indirect cost of $339 billion. So it's an expensive disease because if somebody has, especially the advanced type of dementia, can you just leave them in their home there by themselves? No, you need to have somebody looking after them, and that it requires, money to pay for that. Lifetime chance of developing dementia, females happen to have a higher risk. And this has to do with their change of life as they go through menopause. Racial and ethnic differences. People of African origin, 19% of them are going to end up with Alzheimer's disease, while Latinos, Hispanics, 14%, and Caucasians, white people, 10%. And the reasons of this are multiple. Among them, as we've been talking about, the metabolic problems, populations that are more at risk for metabolic problems are at higher risk for Alzheimer's. So there are multiple myths about dementia. I have heard that supposedly dementia cannot be prevented. That is not what the studies show. So we know that plaque that forms at the level of the brain, which starts catalyzing the perfect environment for dementia to start thriving, there are many things we can do to decrease the risk of those plaques. You've been hearing some of them, including that whole food plant-based diet. Other people say, oh, Alzheimer's is genetic. It's like the Russian roulette, you put the bullet there and maybe it's going to shoot, maybe it's not going to shoot. That's not necessarily true. See, here is this study is trying to study the genetics of Alzheimer's disease. And even though there are some genes there that are involved in increasing the risk, having the gene doesn't mean you're going to have the disease. Among the most popular one is that APOE4. That gene is a gene of inflammation. So people with that gene, bad behaviors have even a bigger impact on their health. And that gene I actually measured in myself. I don't carry myself that gene, but some people do carry it. There will be one medication one day to treat Alzheimer's dementia. That is not true. No medication has ever come up. Those medications work for a subgroup of patients for a short time, and the patients that develop the full dementia a few years later. So our only hope is prevention. And the last myth is that Alzheimer's starts with symptoms of forgetfulness. That is not necessarily true. Some people start getting lost. Some people start having problems recognizing things. Some people, their initial symptom is that they cannot find the right word. They're speaking and they're like, I know there's a better word, but I cannot find it, and so forth. Some people, that's the way that they start. And the research is clear. Preventing Alzheimer's, our most urgent health priority, because we can prevent a lot of this Alzheimer's, lifestyle interventions, and Alzheimer's disease. So we know there's multiple factors that play a role with this. And the more of these risk factors you have present, the higher your risk. So the poor diet, high in sugar and saturated fat, we've been talking about that, not the best diet. Obesity, alcohol, smoking, sedentary behavior, head trauma, small vessel disease, poor sleep, high blood pressure, high stress, high cholesterol, diabetes. All those things play a role. So the more of those things you can decrease or eliminate, the better is going to be your odds of avoiding this. So among the risk factors that have been very well documented include age, no question about it, that's the risk factor, family history of having dementia at early age, that Alzheimer's gene that I was telling you, the APOE4, lack of exercise, unhealthy diet, low education, social isolation, menopause, alcohol, smoking, hearing loss, And then among those cardiovascular risk factors, which is what I want to focus, because these are the ones that have the bigger impact when you're in your middle age. So that bad cholesterol, the LDL, having that insulin resistance, or having diabetes, blood pressure, and obesity. Among the things that we know are protective against dementia include that regular exercise, being active throughout the whole day. Water here. Mm-hmm. So exercise, stress management, still is there. Continue learning, that's what you're here, isn't it? So continue learning. Activities with purpose, social engagement, 7 to 8 hours of sleep. Those omega-3s, daily sun exposure, those things are preventive. And this is something that has been documented in the scientific literature. So we know that diabetes, very good predictor of dementia if it is not well controlled. So a hemoglobin A1C of 7.5 double your risk. In fact, if you have even worse, it triples your risk. This one also showing that diabetes increases very much, but also pre-diabetes, not being fully diabetic, but somewhere in between. So this other one, diabetes is increasing the risk of a stroke, and if you have a stroke, you increase very much your risk for dementia. That's why you need to control that diabetes ASAP. And there's no question about it, how healthy lifestyle can prevent or slow down that progression of the problem. And this is not just one study. There's a lot of studies that have been done showing very clearly how people that have a healthy lifestyle decrease very much the risk for dementia. So,
sorry, Eddie, can I just ask you a question?
Yes.
My daughter is quite a researcher, and she said, Dad, there'll be a thing recognised soon, diabetes of the brain.
That's
Can you
right.
explain that a bit?
Yeah, so most of the Alzheimer patients have brain insulin resistance, or also called diabetes of the brain. That's why we think that having insulin resistance outside definitely plays a huge role on that insulin resistance of the brain. So that's where that comes from. So here you have, about 60% of the population have some sort of genetic risk for dementia. But genetic risk and unhealthy lifestyle jumps to 360% your risk of dementia. That's why I'm telling you, don't play with fire or you're gonna get burned, I guarantee you. But here's the good news. Genetic risk factor plus healthy lifestyle decreases by half or more your risk of that dementia. So is it worth it? In my opinion, yes, isn't it? To go into that lifestyle, you decrease significantly the risk of ending up with that dementia. So what we have learned is that if you follow that healthy lifestyle, you can offset the genetic risk for dementia. And we know that food is very important. The foods that we eat can protect the brain from that oxidative health, what we were just talking about a minute ago. And we know that the right nutrition can decrease that inflammation. And we need to focus at good dietary habits rather than trying to seek that superfood that I'm going to eat and I don't change anything else. I just eat my superfood and that's going to take care of it. It doesn't work like that. But here's the sad reality. We know that atherosclerosis is a huge risk factor for dementia. And here's the most worrisome part. We're seeing in young people, this kid is 19 years of age, notice that when they check the artery of his heart, it already has a severe case of heart disease. Is that good or bad? And sadly, this is the average here in Australia. This lady, 33 years of age, and already half her artery is clogged with atherosclerosis. Now, the most worrisome part of this, if you talk to this lady, she doesn't have a single symptom. So she thinks everything is okay, but what's the problem here? The precipice is just there, and she is really, really close to that precipice, and she doesn't know that. Look at this other study. Almost all persons have aortic fatty streak by the age of what? 10. Because of the wrong lifestyle choices. But I'm glad that you're here tonight because you have been learning how we can reverse and prevent these problems. Who is this guy? A mummy from Egypt, isn't it? Who ended up like that? It was the kings, it was the priests, it was the big business people, isn't it? And having the lifestyle of kings and queens is going to drive you to that. So beware, you know. What problem this Egyptian had? Obesity. What about this one? Cavities. What about this one? Gallbladder stones. What about this one? Cancer. And you can see here this lady, she is pulling up atherosclerosis of the blood vessels of this Egyptian mummy. So beware of the kings and queens lifestyle. Can be harmful to your health. So let me explain to you how this works. So you have the blood vessels, as they start getting damaged by atherosclerosis, they start clogging in, and when there is complete blockage, depending where that happens is what we call it. If that happens to occur at the level of the heart, that's the famous heart attack. If it happens to occur at the level of the brain, is what? Stroke. Look at this experimental type of procedure. They open the chest of this guy, expose his heart, and look at what they are removing off his arteries of his heart. All this junk, that is the famous atherosclerosis that you do not want to have in your arteries. Statistics in Australia, nearly 1 in 5 Australians have cardiovascular disease. Now, when they have the cardiovascular disease, it's because they have the symptoms and everything. But as you saw with the statistics, pretty much a lot of the people have this. 50,000 Australians have reported to have a heart attack at some point, and 30% of the people that die in Australia is because of cardiovascular disease. So do you think this is an important topic? This is an extremely important topic if you live in Australia. And this is a problem of today's world. When the arteries that go to the male organ start to get clogged in, you start having problems, you know, with rectal dysfunction and this type of things. No wonder why that Viagra is a mega seller worldwide. Because you saw how common is cardiovascular disease. Now, a wise physician knows the following. If the person starts having this type of problems and they don't do changes, the heart attack is just 5-10 years after these symptoms start to appear. So, that's right. Yeah.
I'm forgiven.
Yes, amen. So, you have these problems here with cardiovascular problems everywhere. And look at this. This is the artery of somebody with severe disease compared to the other one that doesn't have the health problem. Can you see the issue? So you want to have your arteries that direction, not this direction. The part of the artery that gets sick is what is called the endothelium. And we age at the same rate that our endothelium does. The endothelium is that innermost layer of your artery. So think about it. Arteries is what bring nutrition, oxygen, and remove the CO2 from our body. So in order to get those nutrients, your body needs to take those nutrients from here, and that needs to cross through the whole wall of the artery. Now think a little bit about it. What if the thing is clogged in? Can you get those nutrients? Can you get efficiently oxygen and so forth? And that's why the person with atherosclerosis end up aging faster than what they should, because they're not getting that nutrition and oxygen so efficiently. So one of the drivers of this is something called oxidized cholesterol. Oxidized cholesterol is so toxic that when the body identifies it, it eats it, but it cannot do anything with it, so it goes and deposits on the wall of the artery. If you're gonna do that and you're gonna eat that oxidized cholesterol once a year, it's not that big of a deal. You're just gonna have a tiny little bit there. But oxidized cholesterol for breakfast, oxidized cholesterol for lunch, oxidized cholesterol for supper, what are you doing? You are accumulating a bunch of that in the sides of your arteries, to the point that instead of your artery being nice and smooth, you have these peaks and valleys that form there. And here is the part that you need to understand. You can start having severe disease of your artery. You can be having a blockage of about 60% of your artery, and you don't have any symptoms. So not because you don't have any symptoms, that means that everything is okay, because by the time the symptoms appear, is because now you have about 70 to 80% blockage of the artery. So don't wait until you have the symptoms to start making the changes. And you can see here this very interesting study. This is something new that we found about the microbiota. Very interesting. If you are on a regular animal-based diet, every time you eat animal products, you damage even more your arteries because of your microbiota. But if you are on a whole food, plant-based diet, and you happen to eat some of this, it doesn't cause damage to your arteries. Fascinating, isn't it? How you have that protective effect, this TMAO. And this landmark study gave us a lot of information about the way that heart disease develops. It's called the lifestyle trial. So what they did in this study, they had two groups of people already diseased with their heart, and one group was following the standard counsel that they give to the people that have high cholesterol. What is that standard counsel? You need to eat chicken and white meats. Have you heard that one? You need to eat low dairy type of products, low fat dairy, and these people were really, really careful following that counsel. If you follow that plan, this is what's going to happen to you. In the study, it showed that only 6% of the people actually got better. In fact, 79% of them, the atherosclerosis continued to advance. The arteries got more sick and more sick. And here is, as they follow people, after 3 years, 41% more sick. After 5 years, 65% more sick. After 7 years, 77% more sick. And after 10 years, 85% of them, their heart disease got worse and worse and worse. Is this a good plan? For the cardiologists, yes. You're going to make some good money here of sick people, that are going to need procedures and all kinds of things. But the patient, I'm not sure. So it's as the illustration that we were given, remember, with the faucet. If the faucet is broken, you need to fix the faucet. Don't just waste your time picking up water from the floor. That's just taking statins and this type of things. You are not fixing the problem, you're just dealing with the symptom. So there was a second group, and this is important. The second group was following a 10% fat diet and maximum, learn this number, 5 milligrams of cholesterol a day. Learn this number, 5 milligrams of cholesterol a day. If you can follow that diet, this is what it showed. It showed by angiography that 82% of the people following the diet, there was regression. The arteries were starting to heal. 14%, no change, which is good news. The thing doesn't advance anymore, at least is staying there. And only 4% of them had progression, and that was because there was another issue. Here it was not lifestyle. Here there was unforgiveness, hate, and this type of emotions are not conducive to good heart disease. In cardiology, we have a saying that says, heart disease starts with heart disease. Okay? So you need to deal there with that aspect of the heart. And you can see they were doing these changes and the arteries started to heal. So, how many milligrams of cholesterol we said? 5. Doesn't mean you have to eat 5. You need to eat 5 or less. So let's see, where do we find the cholesterol? Grains, how much cholesterol? 0. Nuts, 0. Vegetables, 0. If it comes from plant, it doesn't have cholesterol. Light cream, how much cholesterol? Is that more than 5 or less than 5? More than 5, stimulates atherosclerosis. Milk 2%, 18 milligrams. Whole milk, 33 milligrams. Mayonnaise, 8 milligrams. Ice cream, 29 milligrams. There's no excuse today. There's all these plant-based ice creams. They taste exactly the same, and you don't need, to be eating that cholesterol. So there's oat ice cream, and there is soy ice cream, and coconut ice cream, and the list keeps going and going and going. Butter, 31 milligrams.
I ate a 2-litre bucket. I'm not proud of this, by the way. A number of years back, a 2-litre bucket of ice cream on Friday night.
Yes.
And before I could get halfway up the staircase for a cup of tea, I had a bloody great heart attack.
Wow.
Ice cream.
Yep. Beware of that cholesterol.
I had other people say the same thing. Ice cream.
Yes. Butter, 1 tablespoon, 31 milligrams. That's too much cholesterol. 1 egg, how much cholesterol? You're eating the cholesterol of the whole month, you know. Just one egg there. This is a bomb of cholesterol. Tuna, 26. Clams, 57. Crab, 64. So you can see all these things very much severely damage the arteries. So let's go ahead and deal with the myths of myths. And this is the myth. The myth is that some people think that chickens grow on trees, you know. They are not a plant-based food, I can assure you of that. How much cholesterol? How much cholesterol does pig have? Is there much difference? No. In fact, beef has 80 and chicken with the skin even more than pork and beef. So the person is just deceiving themselves. I get patients that come to me and say, "Doctor, I'm eating so much chicken that I'm almost getting feathers, you know, under my arms, and I don't understand why my cholesterol doesn't come down." It's not gonna come down. It's an excessive amount of cholesterol that you are consuming. Oysters, 84. Sardines, 120. Shrimp, 365. Beef kidney, 329. All the internal organs very high. Liver of the beef, 410. Caviar, 500. And the food that is the highest in cholesterol is the brains of the cow, 1,697. In Mexico, they eat the beef brain taco. As I tell my friends, don't eat this or you're going to acquire the intelligence of the cow. You know? Not the best thing to consume. So as you can see, you know, the principle is simple. Internal organs, very high in cholesterol. And here it is. This is New England Journal of Medicine, top journal in the world, how milk that doesn't come from humans is not, says the study, an essential nutrient for human health. You know, somehow marketing has brainwashed you like this. Oh, you have to give milk to your child or you are committing child abuse or something along the lines. You are not. You're actually helping them, you know, avoid all kinds of problems. There's other alternatives. There's soy milk, there's oat milk, there's hemp milk, there's almond milk, there's cashew milk, there's rice milk. Try different ones and see which one you like. You know, they have different flavors and so forth. None of them have cholesterol. They fall in the category of the zero cholesterol. And here they are. This is the American Heart Association. They call it the good fats, that's polyunsaturated and monounsaturated. Those are the ones that are found on seeds and so forth. While the bad ones are the saturated fats, all that pork, beef, chicken, butter, cheese, tropical oils, by the way. That's why we don't like that coconut oil is too saturated, too disease causing. And the ugly, the hydrogenated trans fats. How do you know the product has that? Read the ingredients. If it says partially hydrogenated oil, run from it. That stuff is even worse than the saturated fat. Many of the baked goods have this. Why do they use that for that? Because they can make like these cookies and things with this, and the thing is going to last for a year in the shelf. So it is good for the business, but it is bad for your health. Beware of that. To me, this is very interesting. This has been there in Leviticus 7 more than 3,000 years ago. Do not eat any of the fat of the cattle, sheep, or goats. The fat of an animal found dead or torn by wild animals may be used for any other purpose, but you must not eat it. It's been there about the saturated fat from a long time ago, we're getting sick from violating this so important principle found on Leviticus 7:22. Even the American Heart Association is getting on the ball. Look at this. This is the recommendation of the American Heart Association to avoid strokes and heart disease. It says, follow that plant-based diet, keep your weight under control, do regular exercise, stop smoking, keep your blood pressure under control. Your LDL, your bad cholesterol, should be nice and low, while the HDL should be nice and high, and keep the blood glucose under control. Tackle that insulin resistance, as we've been learning. Did you know that 80% of cardiac events can be prevented through education and lifestyle changes? Look at that. This is the American Heart Association. So what can we do? Well, look at this patient. This patient here has severe heart disease. You can see how the artery is nice and open and then suddenly becomes thin here because all this is a huge plaque of atherosclerosis this patient has. Notice what happened to this patient in 32 months. The artery healed beautifully. What pill did he take? No pill. Here it is from the published paper. 32 months on what? On a plant-based diet without cholesterol-lowering medication, showing profound improvement. This is the work of Dr. Caldwell S. Steele. I'm co-author with him in a nutrition book. And as part of his protocol, no caffeine. He takes people off caffeine because that stimulates also the atherosclerosis. Here's another case. You can see here, this patient, how his artery clog here, there's a plaque here, and it opens nicely. 32 months on the plant-based diet. Another case, this one, artery is nice and open, and then becomes thin here because there's plaque on this side and on this side. 60 months on that plant-based diet, his artery healed. Another one, this is so severe, the atherosclerosis, that it almost disappeared, the artery. Same patient, look at that, how it healed very nicely. What did he do? 60 months on the plant-based diet. And I've done research myself. This is one of my research papers showing how people that already have severe disease and they start having that chest pain, these patients, as they follow the whole food plant-based diet, they're able to decrease those risk factors. The cholesterol starts coming down, the diabetes markers start coming down, and all these risk factors start to decrease. You find it there on my ResearchGate page. Or this one, this is a powerful study. See, in our program in California, we put the patients to run or walk fast on a treadmill while we hook an electrode because there's certain blockages of the heart that just by putting an electrode don't come up. But if you put the heart to do work, then the lack of oxygen is going to show up there in the electrode very clear. So we identify those patients that were showing that their heart was showing some level of lack of blood. We call this ischemia. You know? And we put these patients on that whole food plant-based diet, the exercise, the spirituality, the whole 9 yards. And after 18 days, we're showing here that half of the patients, after they went to the 18-day program, when we repeat the same study, we could demonstrate that more blood was arriving to the heart in only 18 days. That's how fast those arteries of the heart started to heal with the right lifestyle. And look at this very interesting study from Norway. Norway was conquered by the Nazis. And one of the interests that those Germans had by conquering Norway is that in Norway, I used to live in Norway, I speak Norwegian, there is a lot of farms in many places. So, when the Nazis came, they took all the cows, all the sheep, all the pigs, all the chickens, and all the ducks and geese to feed their advancing Nazi armies. And something fascinating happened in Norway. The amount of strokes and heart disease started to decrease dramatically. And for those people that like history, what happened in 1945? The war was over. Therefore, the pigs came back, and the chickens came back, and the lambs came back, and the cows came back, and the amount of strokes and heart disease started going up to the point that in the 1970s, Norway had one of the highest rates of heart attacks and strokes in the world. So you can see these people, by being forced on that plant-based diet, experience tremendous improvement of their health. So that's something that you can experience as you switch in the right direction. In closing, let's talk about that oxidized cholesterol. Remember I told you about that oxidized cholesterol that is extremely harmful? Oxidized cholesterol is what you get when you expose cholesterol to the air, which basically is most food, except breast milk. Breast milk, the milk comes out of the mother's breast and into the baby's mouth. No time whatsoever for oxidation. So no problem with breast milk, best food for that baby. But what do? We think that we're smart, isn't it? Take the milk out of the cow, oxidize it, and then we drink it. So if you want cow's milk without oxidation, what do you need to do? You need to hang from there. But of course, because of hygiene reasons, that would not be the most healthy thing to do. So in this experiment, they were given different foods and trying to identify the most artery damaging foods. So you have custard mixes. What are custard? It's what? Eggs, milk, and sugar. Sugar and milk or egg, you oxidize things even more, that cholesterol. So not a good combination. And what's the breakfast of many people? Cereal, which is loaded with sugar, with milk. I mean, that's the wrong thing to do if you want to have healthy arteries. 2, pancake mixes. Why are pancake mixes so harmful? Well, read the ingredients. What's the number 1 ingredient? Powder egg. What does it mean? That every single particle of that egg, we're exposing it to the air, tremendously loaded with oxidized cholesterol. Parmesan cheese, very oxidized, as well as lard. So as you can see, we can choose foods that are going to help us in that process of healing. Don't be fooling around with this, because you saw the statistics in Australia are very high. So both the young and the old are going to benefit from this plan. So may God bless you, and I hope to see you tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Eddie. Really appreciate that. Yeah, can we give the man a hand for that information? Just very quickly, as I'm going to let you guys go, did anybody sneak in after we gave out one of these today? Did you get one of these yesterday? If you have not received one of these invitations to the Prophetica meeting that we're going to have here October 27th. Basically what it is Gary Webster, who is a speaker, loves to talk about these topics. Yes, Katie's pointing up. Just put your hand up if you haven't received one of these. Thank you so much. On October 27th, we're having a dinner with Gary Webster, and we're having 4 short programs. He's going to be talking about ancient things. He's going to be talking about Egypt, Babylon, Jerusalem, and also he's going to be talking about our future. So we just really want to invite you for that because, as I've said, I'll repeat it again, not only are we interested in your life today, your health, your physical life today, we actually care about your future. That's something that's very important for us as well. So we want to just be able to share these things. If you're interested, we'd love you to come. Now, there's a phone number, and this is what I do need to remember. There's a phone number on the back of it. If you have one tonight, there's a phone number on the back of it. We're going to ask you to book just so that we know, hey, we have dinner prepared for you. Because if 5 people sign up and then we have like 60 people come, food's going to be a little bit short. So we would love you to have enough to eat to enjoy the time. So please just call the number on the back, book with us. So that way we can make sure that we'll take care of you for that day. Thank you so much. And my understudy here now is going to take over.
I just have a disclaimer. I made you some pancakes tonight. What did Dr. Eddie say about pancakes? Well, I just needed to reassure you that there was no eggs in those pancakes. The eggs were replaced with ground flaxseed and chia seed, and it was not cow's milk. It was plant-based milk, and the cream on the top, you would not believe it. Comes from lentils. It was plant-based cream. So you can go home and not have nightmares about your arteries.
Okay, Katie. So, again, Dr. Ramirez was talking about the importance of a plant-based diet. Every Thursday evening, Katie teaches a cooking class here at 7 o'clock?
6:30. Yes, so plant-based cooking is it's great, but you kind of got to know what you're doing. You can't just say, hey, I want to eat plant-based. Actually, after listening to Dr. Eddie, you probably think I need to move in that direction, do you? Are you starting to think, man, my arteries might not be in very good condition? Well, I remember one time, not so long ago, a film team came to my home to film me and about a program that I run. And one of the cameramen, he couldn't believe it because I made all this plant-based food. And he tasted it and he said, that's fantastic. He said, my wife is into very healthy cooking. I said, great. You're very, that's amazing. He said, yeah, but the problem is it's gluten-free, it's dairy-free, it's sugar-free, it's fat-free, and it's taste-free. So I make sure that the food I make is healthy enough. It actually isn't any of those things, and it actually is flavorful, loaded with flavor. So I'd love to have you along. It'll happen next Thursday night, and it's absolutely free. You can come, and we'll teach you how to make some of these fabulous things that I've been dishing you up. Yes, I actually show you how to make it. You come along, you get a meal, you sit down, and then I show you how to make it. We also have a little health talk too. We'd love to have you there.
Thank you so much, friends. Have a good night. God bless you. We'll see you tomorrow night.